There's so many people.
Let's call the meeting to order. All present this evening. The invocation this evening will be given by Damon Burpo with the Driftwood Fellowship Church. And George, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this new year. We thank you for this city. I thank you for the new exploits and opportunities that you give us, Lord. And I thank you for each and every person here who's dedicated themselves to serve in this local government here in the City Commission. Father, I pray that you just lead and guide all the decisions to be made. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you.
Please join me in our nation's pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4, consider approval of minutes of the regular commission meeting of December the 19th, 2017.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Darwin, second by George. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Under item 5, awards, presentations, proclamations, and organizational business. Item 5.1, present the pet available for adoption at the city animal shelter.
That's an interesting looking animal there.
Ginger. Hi, good evening. Happy New Year, everyone. I'm Charlotte Ringwald. I'm the adoption coordinator at Enid Animal Control. And my friend tonight is Cupid. Cupid isn't available yet because currently we don't have any dogs available. We've had a lot of really great adoptions and lots of people in the community helping to work together and get them rescued for the holidays. So we just have Cupid right now. He's available on Wednesday, and a bunch of other dogs will be available next week too. He's about a 1-year-old Sheltie mix, and he's in pen 21. He's already neutered, so he's looking for a new home. So if you need a new dog or a cat, we always have cats. Come by and see us. Ready? You sit. Chase. Good boy.
Good show.
Item 5.2, present the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Holiday Proclamation. Steve?
Sir, Mayor, can you join me, please? Ladies and gentlemen, we have, that's such a good report about no pets to adopt.
Yeah.
Such a great report. Celebrate that. Appreciate the work of Charlotte and Animal Control. Well, I'd like the members of the Dr. Martin Luther King Commission, if you would join me up here, please. I believe there's 11 members. Staff liaison, City of Enid staff liaison is Stephanie Carr. Everybody's sporting their...
So I need to come down.
Pat, we're going to have you speak in a few moments. You want
Just a
to get close to that mic in just a few moments. According to my, ladies and gentlemen, according to my list, the members of the Dr. Martin Luther King Holiday Commission include Pat Stevenson, Chair, front and center. We have Emma Fraser, LaFay Austin, Damon McKinney, Jackie Manning, Linda Rollins, Lenita Norwood, Dusty, is it Giles? Norris Williams, Ward 2 Commissioner Derwin Norwood Jr., and again, the staff liaison is Stephanie Carr. Did I overlook anyone? LaFay? We're good? Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is a proclamation that the mayor has put together for you to just honor your work and also the celebration that will take place the next couple of weeks. And I'm sorry, Mayor, I'll let you have the real deal. I'm sorry. So Pat, the mayor, will present that to you in just a moment, but I have a copy to read out loud for everyone here and also the television audience. Whereas Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., a clergyman, civil rights leader, and where the third Monday in January has been designated as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day and has been observed in our community for 28 years, and whereas this observance affords the special opportunity to become more knowledgeable about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., his mission, his dream of equality, peace, and equal opportunity for all mankind. Whereas such knowledge can strengthen the insight of all of our citizens regarding the issues of human rights, the great strides that have been made in the crusade to eliminate the barriers in equality from minority groups, and the continuing struggle against racial discrimination and poverty. And the legacy of his dream continues to serve as a beacon of hope for all mankind, but his dream and vision remains unrealized, and more progress must be forthcoming. And whereas the City of Enid wishes to promote this holiday in order to inspire the citizens to pursue his dream of education, development, and communication, with the acknowledgement of the prayer breakfast on Saturday, January 6, 2018, and the celebration march that will take place, and service that will take place on Saturday, January 13, 2018. Now, therefore, Bill Shuey, Mayor of Enid, Oklahoma, on this important occasion this evening, and by virtue of his authority as mayor and on behalf of the City Council, hereby declares Thursday, January 4th, 2018, as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day in Enid. Congratulations. And Pat, this is you.
We'd like to thank you, Mayor, for this, and we'd like to thank the City Commissioner. We'd like to thank everyone that's had a part of this, and we're inviting you to the breakfast and the celebration on January 13th. We'd love to see you there. Our mayor is going to give the welcome, so we'd love to see you there. And we especially appreciate Mr. Steve. He's the best thing that happened since the remote control.
Actually, I think Steve's been around longer than remote control. We get your point.
I think we're done. Anybody else want to say anything? This is your opportunity. And we're live streaming this around the globe, so just keep that in mind.
Uh-oh.
Okay? Oh, yeah, straighten up. That's too late, Pat. That's too late. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your service on the commission, and thank you for the opportunity for the City of Enid to be part of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor and Commissioners, that's all for the proclamations for this evening. Thank you.
This is the part when you say,
Yeah, I think so. Let's tune it out anyway.
Hope so.
it's all good. Put your coat on like your mother did. Item 5.3, present the Vance Development Authority update by Mike Cooper. Mike, thank you for being here.
Mayor, Commissioners, City Attorney, Mr. Skaggs, Chief, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Have a quick brief. I'll give you a very quick overview of some of the things, important things that are happening. First of all, with airspace, as you know, we've been trying to deal at the state and federal level to try to protect our very important airspace. The key things are military training routes, approaches to runway, bombing ranges, and drop zones. So we've worked with Wind, as I've told you before, and the House and Senate at the state level to try to come up with language that everybody has agreed to protect those things that are important to the defense industry. As you know, it's about $13 billion annual economic impact, well over $300 million just for Vance alone. But if you throw the other bases in there, including Shepherd Air Force Base at Wichita Falls uses probably 60% of their flying is done in Oklahoma, and they use Frederick Municipal Airport as their auxiliary, much like we do Kegelman. So we've worked very hard to get everybody at the table. The Regional Wind Coalition, the American Wind Association, which is the federal level, also worked and coordinated with the Department of Defense Clearinghouse. They have a new director that the administration has appointed to try to figure out, well, okay, what can we do at the state level? In conjunction with that, we put language in the National Defense Authorization Bill that made readiness and training rise to the level of national security, because currently when you're making decisions based on where these types of developments were placed, the Defense Department really didn't have they couldn't really say totally no, so that's why you see a lot of developments were made where they had to, you would take part of, say these military training routes or whatever with mission, kind of partially, wouldn't totally eliminate their capability, but it degraded it somewhat. So they were making decisions because they could not, Secretary of Defense could not intervene because it didn't rise to the level of national security. So working with Senator Inhofe and the House Armed Services Committee staff is able to get language in the National Defense Authorization Bill, which was passed. So now the federal level has the ability to do that when they choose to do that. Now, depending on whether you want more alternative energy, less defense, or whatever, then you can tell where administrations change. And the director of the clearinghouse suggested and told us, and so did the House and Senate, felt like at the federal level it makes more sense. State control, you need to have some form of backstop to do, permanent protection. So what we're essentially doing is develop criteria that says, here are the things that we need to protect. It just so happens that a guy that represents the Wind Coalition at the federal level and the regional level was the former Department of Defense Clearinghouse Director. He also was the airspace guy at Nellis Air Force Base, and he's a fighter pilot himself, but now he works and represents wind. We sat down with all of those entities to figure out and decide what was the most minimal thing to protect and not take away from mission capabilities. So we have finally got everyone on the same page. We have lined everybody up. We want to do nothing more than what wind says is important to protect, which essentially means if you look at a map and figure out where all these places are at, it's really build here, not there type of thing. So wind has agreed to that. So we'll move forward with legislation that's really not permitting, but it'll be in state statute that says here's a criteria that has to be put together, that you can't move a project forward till it meets this standard. So we'll make sure, and we've worked with, and the Department of Defense Clearinghouse Director has agreed that when we get that legislation passed, we give them that language, and then when the process, when it comes through their offices, then they now know what the Oklahoma standard is, and then they work with it. So hopefully this session that gets done fairly quickly, we hope. But as you know, when you fall on track bills like that, you never know. So it's not over till it's over, but it looks a lot better, particularly because we have everybody on the same page. Back to Milcon for Vance Air Force Base, real quickly. I think the next priority project, unless Colonel Judy says otherwise, is their support ops center. Is that the correct
Ops
word?
complex.
Yeah, ops complex. Roughly a little over $20 million. What we'll do, and myself and the mayor will go down and meet with, Colonel Judy understands, well, we like to go down and talk to the new 3-star and explain to him some of the things that are important to us, what we're doing with airspace, what we're doing with all of the other things that we do to protect and enhance that facility, or at least increase mission capability and reduce costs. But our important thing is make sure they have it in their 5-year plan, and Colonel Judy understands that, and we'll make sure that he does as well, because that's the only way we can go and ask for money over and above what's being asked for in the defense budget. So we'll make sure that that's done. To the terminal, I know you guys were advised a couple of weeks ago by Onus Orge on the terminal and where that's at, and some of the changes that probably are going to be made to that. Next Thursday, we'll approve. We've already approved the project, but we'll approve the money where they can now write a check. So it'll be $158,000 this year. And by the way, this is a project that Colonel Judy agrees with too. So, and it's to fund the, what would you actually call that?
Joint training room, planning room?
training room,
Landing.
landing room in the terminal that the pilots can use because they're using our facility quite a lot. So 158,000 this year, at least that amount next year. So, you know, I would say 300,000 if they actually need more. And looking at some of the projects, he may need some follow-up dollars. So we probably can reach up into the 500,000-600,000 range eventually when it's over, depending on what projects don't get funded or built. I know Chris is managing, appreciate it, and it's a lot of time and a lot of effort, but the joint land use study that's currently going on, that's moving well ahead. And again, that's funded by the OEA, and then the match is with a lot of time and effort that Chris has put into it and staff. We'll continue to do that. Along the airspace lines, I know the mayor and myself, and I think Dan Onersold will probably go. There's a meeting in a couple of weeks down at the National Weather Center at Norman, where we'll have a discussion from DOD, Air Force, and weather folks to describe the impact of what the turbines are doing, you know, to our weather radar, which actually they use. It's part of their training process that helps them be able to do more of what they're doing. The other one last thing that I'll tell you that we're working on, they would like to get all military installations off the grid, be able to, if power ever goes out, that they can have some alternative energy backup or some power source, some redundancy more and above than what we have. We have a lot of redundancy to Enid, but as you all recall, in the ice storm 15, 20 years ago, I don't remember how long it was, we actually lost all 7 redundant routes to this town. So that means that's a bad thing to have pilot training down, as well as all of us. But anyway, I've got worked with Mike Ruby and OG&E, and so they're working out and studying that about what we can do, what the capacity would need to be, what type of facility. Is it a cogen? Is it, you know, is it natural gas? Is it solar? Is it what? You know, but we'll leave that up to them, and once they come back to that, then we'll advise the base on what we think some options are, and then we'll try to figure that out. But we're well on our way to that. And again, that's part of the trip that the mayor and I will take to Randolph in a few weeks to update the commander on some of the things we're doing. So unless anybody's got some questions, that's some of the things we're working on.
I have a question, Mike. How does the placement of the windmills affect the airspace?
Well, okay, so if you, military training route is basically a highway in the sky, and you can step in any time, but I would say 10 to 12 miles wide, could go several, you know, say 100 miles long or whatever, and they're all over. And this is something that we agreed on when we had all the commanders, Army, Air Force, everybody together, along with wind and their experts to describe what needed to be protected. And I'll just tell you what they said, which is, this is the important thing to protect. What you need to protect is entrance, exit out of one of those military training routes. And again, just take a highway and put it in the sky. And the reason you want to protect the entrance and exit, and this is pretty simple because I'm a pretty simple-minded guy, when you're flying high and you fly low, because this is down to 500 feet, you don't want to block, you know, you don't want to build turbines or anything over 500 feet across that entrance, because again, that's problematic when you're coming down low. Now, when you're flying down in that corridor, you know, you don't want to build anything totally across the corridor, or when you're exiting, you don't want to do that. Now, the reason you don't want to build across, and actually you don't want to run into something, and again, you know, these aren't new pilots. These aren't trained pilots. These are new people. We hope they're at 500 feet, but I would almost bet they've been below 500 feet. So most of the wind turbines are 499 or somewhere in that range, and so there's impact there. Approaches to runways or exits, because again, we're about the 4th or 5th busiest airport, so we're taking off and landing all the time just because of what we do. Well, you don't need a wind turbine that impacts radar, not only radar from their air traffic control that they can't see, or you don't, you know, as you're approaching or taking off or landing, you're coming in low, you don't need those things in the way either. So, and then we also have drop zones or bombing ranges. Drop zones is more the big C-17s, the big planes down at Altus, they use because they come down low and get into it and do all their maneuvering and drop things out of planes and all that. And of course, a bombing range, exactly that. You don't need to be building things inside a bombing range where people are dropping bombs. So that's pretty basic to that. You know, I know when we had the interim study, when we had the House and Senate together, and Colonel Judy was at this, meeting. But when the wing commander, he has some issues already blocking some of their, military training routes, but more so to the south. And the wing commander from Shepherd Air Force Base has already taken off, I'd say 25% or so of all their capability that they could do in our state, and probably about 60% of their flying's done in Oklahoma. So some of the training routes in the southern part of the state are already rendered useless because they have built across and in there. Now, the best thing is, and we've tried to do this as much as we can, to get the developers in front of the Air Force and tell me where you want to develop before you start purchasing land. Here's where the routes or the approaches or these other areas are at, and essentially build here, not there. We've actually moved things, and I know before Colonel Judy was here, we literally moved some of these projects less than a section line array away from where these areas were at, and so they could move it, build the entire project, and be done. But so now there is a better understanding, I think, between wind, the Air Force, and everyone to understand that, hey, we want wind. You really want an alternative energy, capabilities. Oklahoma's the second largest wind developer in the U.S. So we do like wind in the U.S. and in Oklahoma. And as you know, I think PSO's getting ready to develop a big project out in the Panhandle. It's going to build a power line. So the only thing that you really want is, well, okay, that's fine. We want that industry to work, but we also have the Defense Department, which, has been there for a great long time, and these routes and things have been there for a great long time. But I think it's really more awareness than anything, so we've been trying to do that. Hope that answers.
Yes, sir, because I never looked at it from that perspective. I knew that we needed places in case of emergency landing or something like that, but I appreciate you enlightening me because I was ignorant to the facts, so now I know. Thank you.
And we'll get more educated, I think, even on the weather radar, because I think some of us, I really couldn't speak to that. However, I know they utilize it to be able to continue to keep training and all of that sort of thing. So they utilize that to understand what weather could impact them or not. And and there's already some impact, I think, because in fact, if you look at your iPhone and follow the weather out here, you can see what's impacting on your iPhone now. So now, but what you don't want to do is totally erode capability, because one, it's a safety thing, because we don't want people running into things, because if you do, you're going to have loss of life and damaged property. So.
And Erwin, it makes it real interesting because Wichita Falls is in Texas, and they have Texas and Oklahoma.
More of an awareness thing, I think. But again, we're closer at the federal and regional level, I think, at getting people on the same page to finally figure out, we're not trying to stop you from developing. We're just trying to make sense and make this safe and work for everybody. So,
Thank you.
Yes, Colonel?
Mayor, I just would add to the commissioner's point that really it's compatible use is really what we're trying to find out is the situations where we can have compatible use, where they can do their development and we can continue our mission with the minimal impact as we go forward. The problem with a lot of these lower highways in the sky that we talk about is there's a top to them as well. And then our training value is really achieved when we're low to the ground, when we do these low-level training pieces. So as we pick that up higher, we lose our training value. And in some instances, depending on, we talk about where these structures cross the corridor, we have clearance criteria that we have to meet by regulation to clear those. And depending on how high those structures are and what the top of the route is, we might compress ourselves to a point to where we can't utilize the route anymore. I think that's kind of what's probably happened at Shepherd Air Force Base. So we appreciate the engagement to try to work out a compatible use scenario.
And if you take that, whether it's 10 or 12 miles wide, I don't know what the designation is, but the other thing is you didn't, to make it compatible and not take all of that property off, where you couldn't be developed underneath it, is, we work to figure out, well, what is that? What type of corridor do you need to really allow down through there? So it was kind of determined if you've got a 4 or 5 mile pathway through that entire route, that then you have the capability of building, say the 12 mile, you could build in this way, on both sides of it, as long as you allowed a pathway through there. So, but you and I, normal citizen, I wouldn't know or understand, well, what size of pathway do you need there? You know, he's flying a plane very fast, you know, so, and it was determined too, I think, down at Altus with the big planes, because it takes a longer turn radius, I guess, because they're a bigger plane. They might need a little more than, say, what the T-38s are, and we're actually trying to figure that out right now, so.
And I understand also that, you know, at night, they're less visible because the lights don't stay on. You know, they blink off and on. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
To Mike's credit, he has been very busy in Oklahoma City and Washington, D.C. for the last 12 months, working on some.
And interesting, know a lot more about wind than I probably ever wanted to know.
Anyway.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you, Mike. Item 6, Community Development. Item 6.1, conduct a hearing and consider an ordinance to rezone property located in the northeast quarter of the southeast quarter and the north half of the southeast quarter of Section 26, Township 23 North, Range 7 West of the Indian Meridian, which is north of Purdue Avenue and west of Cleveland Street. Chris?
Thank you, Mayor, City Commissioners, City Management. The slide in front of you outlined in yellow shows you the 60-acre parcel being considered this evening. It is north of Purdue and on the west side of Cleveland. In all zoning cases, we look at the supporting infrastructure. This slide in green shows you the sanitary sewer running the full length of the property in Cleveland. And the blue line shows you that we have water in the area serving the North Market States. My next and last slide shows the streets. The green represents pavement and the dark blue represents unimproved. Planning Commission considered the zoning variance at their last meeting, not variance, but the zoning, and their recommendation to you is to approve.
Chris, is the street on the north end of that property, it's also an unimproved road?
It's a dirt road. That blue identifies that.
Questions, comments?
Are there any objections?
No, no protests were received.
What's it being changed from to, what's it currently zoned as?
It's currently agricultural, and they're seeking R2, residential.
To build houses there?
Yes.
We will vote on that later.
You can vote on it now as the way it is, if I believe that's correct, Carol,
Yes.
on the agenda.
Motion to approve?
Second.
A motion by George, second by Irwin. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 6.2, consider a sidewalk variance for Jack McFadden at 923 South Oakwood, described as track number 405 in the northwest quarter of 1422-7, beginning 990 feet south of the northwest. Is that center? Help me, Ben.
Northwest corner of the northwest quarter.
Northwest corner of the northwest quarter, south 300 feet, east 660 feet, north 330 feet, and west 660 feet.
Thank you, Mayor. The description you just read is shown there in the yellow box. And this property, we did a lot split on it several months ago, and that has really no bearing of this evening. But they are developing a building on the east part of this property, right in this general area right here. And when you do that, that triggers the need for the sidewalk on Oakwood. And this slide shows you the general neighborhood. My trail is about a quarter of a mile south of this location. This is Oakwood Mall right here. You've got Tinker, and then different shopping, gas stations, C-stores, services there. So there is a pedestrian presence in this particular neighborhood. The next slide just shows it to you in a little bit bigger detail. The sidewalk would be in this area right here on the public right-of-way. The Planning Commission considered this, and their recommendation was to deny the variance.
I move to deny the variance.
Second.
I have a question. How many locations in that area have a sidewalk now?
I don't believe there, I'm going to back up the slide so we can get to the little bigger picture. This would be the first right here, to my knowledge.
Does that cross a driveway?
No, sir, I'll go to the
or a
next bigger.
Parking lot?
No, right here, it would be, this is the lot width. So this is where the development's happening, is on this particular piece of property. And here's where they abut Oakwood. So the sidewalk would be right here.
Just that little part.
But there's a large paved parking lot in front of that building, right?
Right there, yes, sir, there is.
Yeah. And what's on the south side of this property? Is that a street there?
Right here?
No. Clear
Right
on
here?
down to the bottom.
This?
Yes.
This is the apartments right here.
I see the apartments, but I mean, I'm just talking about the lower border of this tract.
This is a parking lot for this business, and this is a driveway to their overhead doors.
There's not a street adjacent
No,
to that property.
this is all private property.
My problem with it is a safety requirement. And the businesses that are in there, if they had wanted a sidewalk, they'd have built those sidewalks 30, 40, 50 years ago.
But Bill,
And there are none in there.
but Bill, we decided that people have to have sidewalk, not the businesses.
I understand.
I mean, as a long-term investment in the community.
We need to relook at this.
Yeah,
But
you and I are never going to agree on this one, are we?
you are 100% right.
I would say this, though, if we're looking at safety and we're looking at it from a safety perspective, I think the wrong way of looking at this is saying that there's a parking lot there. Because encouraging, particularly when we talk about kids, because I drive past this area, several times a week in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, and the kids are standing at the bus stop. And after school, this is a high traffic area. And they walk right up that pathway there in order to be able to get to the little corner stores and the place to buy their chips and stuff like that. If we're telling kids during that time frame, 3:30 and 4:30, to walk through the Tinker Federal Credit Union parking lot while there's a lot of traffic going on as opposed to a sidewalk where they're actually supposed to get foot traffic. I mean, it honestly doesn't make sense for us not to provide for the business owner to provide a place where people can walk through without being at risk of being hit by a vehicle. The parking lot it's a parking lot. It's for cars to be able to move in and out of, not for children to walk through.
Well, my question is, how much space is there between the parking lot and the street?
Keep building.
This distance right here,
What is that distance?
this is a car parking space, so we'll just say that's 20 feet. So you probably got about 30, 35.
Doesn't look anywhere near that large when you go by there.
My engineer's saying a good 20 to 25.
Huh.
So his estimate's better than mine.
We would have to look at this, and we really don't anticipate it'd be a problem for construction.
And this one's flat. There's not like a drainage ditch or some of these where it's
But, just going down the street there, though, it looks like the parking lot is just almost adjacent to the street. 20, 25 feet, that does make a difference.
I'd also would say that, I sat on the board with our recommendation. The argument is continuously brought up, well, it's the only sidewalk that's going to be there in the area. For now. I mean, at some point you have to start, and then we can build on it. That's like not moving into the neighborhood because there's only one house there. You anticipate and you build towards for growth. And so again, if we're building an area that is supposed to be trafficked with foot traffic, again, which is good for any business to have foot traffic where you can get people who are willing to walk in that area without being worried about being hit by a car or, being backed over. This is good for business to be able to have sidewalks in the area, to be able to bring foot traffic so people can go to these stores and these places and spend money.
got to start somewhere.
I happen to disagree with you also.
I totally understand, and
We do have somebody signed up to speak to this item.
I'm good.
Jack McFadden?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I just wanted to listen to what we had to say.
very good.
I moved
We have a
to,
motion to deny the variance,
Second.
and a second by Ben, second by
Jonathan.
Jonathan. A vote for A Help me, because we tend to go with these backwards.
Voting aye will deny the variance.
And your motion was?
To deny the variance.
All in favor to
Yes.
deny the variance?
Yeah. I will be voting aye to deny the variance.
Say that again.
My motion is to deny the variance, which would make them build the sidewalk. So if you
So yes,
support my motion, they got to build it.
Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-2. Item 6.3, consider a sidewalk variance for Chris Brown at 1407 North Taylor, described as Lot 10, Block 2, North Van Buren Industrial Park. Chris?
Thank you, Mayor. This slide in front of you shows the general area. It's in an industrial park on Taylor. We have Van Buren Street to orient you right here. This is Poplar. This is my service center. So it's in this area. Here's the site. And my next slide just gives that to you a little bit larger. The owner of this property did a small addition to their building. And again, like the previous one, when you develop, that triggers the sidewalk. And this one, due to the nature of the industrial park, the Planning Commission's recommendation to you is to approve the variance.
I'll move to approve the variance. It's an industrial park. We probably should change ordinance to allow no sidewalk in industrial park at some point, but I'll move to approve the variance.
What is that
Whoa, whoa,
street?
Wait, hold on.
Wait a minute, Ben. Ron?
Well, we can do a
I'm just
second.
curious about
before
what
we
the street is there, that
This is Taylor Street, Commissioner.
Taylor.
It just, my other slide, you can see a little better there. That's Taylor, Spruce, Cherry.
And there's not any sidewalk along that street?
No, sir.
Is there a sidewalk in that addition?
No. And as you can see, it's fairly well developed out.
Yeah.
About what's going to happen here is probably additions like on this one will be the most common.
And the size of the building?
Right.
Ben?
I move to approve the variance, so they don't have to build a sidewalk.
I second.
Motion by Ben, second by Jonathan.
I have a question before we go forward. Does this only apply to commercial?
No.
C3 and above, or is this for residential also?
It applies to all development.
Well, but we don't require aren't there some agricultural areas that we don't require it?
On unimproved roads, you're correct. Like on a dirt road, it doesn't apply.
Yeah. We've
Okay.
exempted some others.
Is this only to new construction for residential, or is it as old as well?
This is all commercial and industrial. It does apply to residential, but only in new areas. And you can explain that more fully. These are all commercial or industrial.
Well, in my understanding, if you add onto your house in residential, you build a sidewalk.
Yeah.
But it depends
We
on
did-
how big or how much.
Right, we did-
Because
we
we
did
decided
modify
that if
the-
you're just gonna put storage shed on your property, that was a stupid reason.
But if you're doing a
But if
big, adding a wing or doing a big remodel, you got to go out there and do the sidewalk. You haven't done it already.
What about a garage?
I can't remember
An
how we
accessory
phrased it.
building is based on size.
It's on, yeah, it's based on square footage.
600 square feet.
And the reason I'm saying that, it does apply to residential, but only in certain situations.
Okay.
We typically, it's required in areas that are new areas, new development, newly platted, or the sidewalks exist now. And we got to that through several revisions, and I think we have the residential sidewalk variance process down pretty good because we rarely get those now. We still get some, but.
That's true.
But, for instance, these four have nothing to do with residences. These are all commercial businesses. They may be in an industrial area or an agricultural area or something, but, so it may be time to review, and Carol and I have talked about that before, and it sounds like we'll bring something to you soon in a study session. If you want to, exempt industrial areas or something, that may help. There'll be other challenges, though, but.
Well, maybe not I-2 zone, all I zoning, but, the industrial park areas that are all already nothing but industrial. But we'll talk about the study session sometime.
We're voting one way on the one before this and differently on this one.
Because they're different circumstances, Bill. People don't walk here.
And my reason for bringing this up, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, we're allowed 30% of an unattached, say I was going to build a garage in my backyard. It's 30% of the overall percentage of the property. Reason why I'm asking this, because if I was to build a garage in my backyard, I'd have to run 2 sidewalks. one going north and south, east and west, which I could do that, but I still have to pay for it, you know, and the time and effort and labor to get that done. So residential wise, I think we do need to really take a good look at this. Not because, I mean, that's not my plan, but I'm just saying if I decide to do that, and
That's why we based it on square footage, because there were instances where people were literally just gonna put in like a storage shed, but it triggered the need to put in a sidewalk, which that was ridiculous. So it just depends on like what kind of a project you're doing, first of all, and where the house is. And there was one that came up that was the dumbest one ever, which was like a trailer, a little bitty trailer house in the middle of a neighborhood that never had a sidewalk ever and will never have a sidewalk.
And that's also why we have the variance process, is that you can never make an ordinance that will be perfect for every circumstance. Right. And so that's why there will always be some of these, as much as we tweak it, and it's getting better and better over the years, there will always be some that we just got to.
And I think we need to really look at the rationale as to why this is the way that it is. I know in my ward where I'm at, right down the block from where I live, I sit in meetings with folks from the neighborhood, and one of the biggest problems that they have is that when cars park on the street and there are no sidewalks, their children ride bikes in the street, their kids play in the street and walk in the street because there is no place for them to walk because they don't walk through people's yards. And so again, the idea and the rationale behind this is that we have a place for young folks and even elderly folks or people who are just walking down the street have a place in order to be able to walk, so we can have people on our outside of their houses, in front of our houses, and being able to be social again. We don't have that in a lot of these neighborhoods because there's no place for people to be able to walk outside of in the street. And having an obstruction like in a vehicle there, and you step out to navigate around it, and a car is coming down the road, this is an opportunity for a child to get hit, a person to get hit, and that's just not what we want. And I understand it's expensive, but again, expansion, building, growing, and maturing our community, it's going to cost us a little bit in order to be able to get that done.
And it's part of our comprehensive plan is making the city more walkable too. It's
important.
We do have somebody signed up. Chris Brown.
You don't have to.
Need your name and we need your name and address,
This is
Chris.
an old commercial area. It is all grown up down there where there's nothing down there but buildings.
We need your name and address, please.
Chris Brown, 1115 West Wabash, Enid, Oklahoma. One of my buildings is at this 1407 North Taylor. This area's been growing up for 30 years, and there's nothing but commercial buildings down there. We're talking driveways, it's all concrete. Everything is basically gravel. So there may be 10 cars a week go down by there, so it's all basically just for storage.
Thank you. We have a motion to deny the variance?
No, motion to approve.
I'm sorry, keeping you awake.
And it's been seconded.
Second. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 6.4, consider a sidewalk variance for Clint Watkins at 4810 West Garriott, described as the southwest quarter, section 107, 22 north, range 7. Chris.
Thank you, Mayor. To orient you, this is Western Sizzlin right here. This is Car Mart. Here's the site that we're talking about this evening, and this is the newly built La Quinta Hotel. And you can see that they did install their sidewalk. This is a site we're visiting with this evening. My next slide, that's my only slide. I thought it would get a little bit bigger for you. Planning Commission reviewed this, and their recommendation to you is to deny the variance.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move to deny the variance.
I second.
And second by Derwin.
What's going to be built on that property?
They're doing a storage building, Commissioner, back here in the back part of their lot. This is where A.E. Howard is, their location.
You know, we, if you recall, if my memory is correct, when Kurt Wright had a similar issue come up, we granted them a variance.
That's correct.
because of the drainage ditch situation.
And that was a mistake.
That was the whole,
That wasn't the only issue, because like I say, to me, just doing, spot sidewalks along there in the commercial areas is
But the sidewalk
not
is going all the way back to that
neighborhood.
retention pond. And the reason
we didn't require them to put one on Garriott. Cartwright didn't build any.
Right, because of the drainage ditch and the culvert and all that stuff that was the problem.
that is correct.
It was like an actual physical.
And this isn't an issue in this location?
And the neighbor has
room.
one already.
I was gonna say, and I'm not sure about Curtright, but I know this guy's neighbor has one right there next to it.
Yep.
So,
Well, the motel just came
Exactly
in,
what we're doing.
They didn't ask for anything.
Now, there's a safety problem on K. Garriott.
I agree emphatically.
Gonna put your kids out there and let them walk up
I
and-
think a sidewalk right there to where they can walk from place to place, if that's what they chose to do, we make our shopping area a lot more friendly, particularly for people staying in the hotel who might not have transportation, can walk to the restaurant that's right down the way, that they don't have to navigate through a parking lot, or if they want to go to one of these shopping stores that are there. We are, again, we're rolling out the red carpet so they have a place to walk and not have to navigate through parking lots.
We're making it less business friendly, in my mind.
I would say we were
I
making it
disagree.
more business friendly.
Well, they did,
Go out there and walk to Western Sizzlings, see what you're gonna get.
If I'm gonna walk to Western Sizzling, I'm not from my house, I'm driving. But if I'm at the hotel that's right over there, I can hit that parking lot.
You're skipping around. Well, go out there and walk it. It's
Go
dangerous.
out, walk out on that highway there. You know why it's dangerous?
Because
There's no
There's no
sidewalk. You give me a sidewalk and I have a place in order to be able to walk down, but I'm not walking in the ditch now.
Well, I'm curious, though, about the rationale when this ordinance was drawn up for, somebody that makes an improvement to the back of the lot, but it triggers a sidewalk in front of an existing business location.
Got to get there somehow.
Just seems ridiculous. The whole purpose of this ordinance, when we discussed it, was that we want to have sidewalks constructed in all new residential developments. That's where you need sidewalks.
That's not exactly. We talked about we talked about redevelopment as well, Ron. I was there. We talked about as much sidewalk as we can get.
Well,
and let's
at that time,
we've all had this discussion about 85 times now.
Yes,
in
I know.
The 5 years.
But a lot of the people that drove that discussion are no longer with us.
Well, I don't know.
And I agree with Bill. I think at some point we're going to have to revisit it and make this thing a little more logical.
Tonight, let's just vote and get done with it.
I do have one question, if that's okay. Chris, in this situation here, will the city provide 50% of the cost to this, or is it a joint venture, or is it all up to the contractor? That's my only question. Will he have to pay the whole,
We
foot the whole
we
bill
do
with
have a
owners?
program where we participate, we, the city, 50%. Can you explain the parameters of that, Chris? Does that apply
The
here?
key parameter in this case is it does not apply to those locations that do not have sidewalks.
Okay.
It's primarily for sidewalk repair.
Okay. And the reason why I asked this question, guys, is because we're being watched. We're on television. And I don't like people to be misled. I want to make sure that the citizens of the city of Enid fully understand the ordinances. I know, I understand it, but I'm asking for the people so that we don't get hit and say that we're unjust. Thank you.
We have a motion to approve,
To deny the variance.
to deny the variance.
A second.
Commissioner Norwood.
Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-2. Item 4, consider a sidewalk variance for Clint Watkins at 4810 West Garriott.
We just did that one.
I sure did. Consider, item 5, 6.5, consider a sidewalk variance for Greg Stong at 410 North 4th Street, described as the north 50 feet of lots 6 through 12, Block 33, Jonesville Addition.
Thank you, Mayor. This slide shows you the general area. This is Exchange Park. We just put a new bathroom in here about a year ago to help you remember that location. 4th Street, this is Elm. This is the site being developed. The next slide shows a little bit more detail, and it is an industrial zoned area, I-2. Planning Commission reviewed this one, and their recommendation is to approve the variance.
What's being built there on that site? You know?
A shop building for Mr.
Shop building.
For Mr. Stong.
We're a block away from a park. My shop building, by the way, is 2 blocks south of that, at Randolph and 4th. See a lot of people walking up and down this area.
To go to the park and stuff.
Yeah, and also just, I mean, there are a lot of houses and neighborhoods, and Garfield's a block, block and a half away, and parks there. And there's a lot of people walk over this area.
You have a sidewalk in front of your building?
The entire frontage of my building is street. Well, no, it's a driveway. I would like to have building sidewalk along the fourth, the
What
other
did
side.
the
of Enid.
MAPC do with it?
Their recommendation was to approve the variance.
Can you go to the zoom in? Is there a sidewalk on the other side of the street there?
Well, there's mostly grass, but
This right here?
Uh-huh.
I don't know. It looks like a remnant.
I looked at the street view. I just looked at the street view on my computer, and clearly there was sidewalk there once upon a time. It is
Overgrown.
it is largely grass. Yeah, it's actually, if you look, it's brick. It's one of the old brick sidewalks on that side that is long overtaken.
So there is a way for people to navigate the street in that. Now, so across the street is zoned differently than the other side of the street? Is it
all
industrial
residential.
And then residential on the other side? So the residential side has a sidewalk, the industrial doesn't?
That's correct. I know the site we're talking about tonight is industrial. I'd have to confirm on the east side of 4th Street.
Well, they're all houses.
It's probably residential, but
Yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head.
And you can call that a sidewalk, maybe a stretch.
It's like a big vacant lot.
But even north of that, it's all housing.
Yeah, it's all.
Right. You have the industrial there where it backs up against the railroad track.
Mm-hmm. But the only part that they would have to do a sidewalk on is the little narrow frontage, right?
The width of the property.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'll move to deny the variance.
What was the recommendation?
To approve the variance from Planning Commission.
Motion dies for lack of a second. Do we need another?
I'll make a motion to approve the variance.
Motion by Ron to approve the variance.
I'll second that.
Second by Jonathan. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 6-1. Item 7, administration. Consider an ordinance amending the Enid Municipal Code 2014, Title 5, Public Safety, Chapter 5, General Offenses, amending Article G, Weapons, Fireworks, and Related Offenses, Section 5-5G-2, Discharge of Weapon, Throwing Fireballs, to provide an exception for authorized foul control and remove jail time from punishment, providing for repealer, savings clause, severability, and codification.
It's the best one we've had in a long time. I'll move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion by Ben, second by Jonathan to approve.
Mayor, I have to ask a question. What are fireballs? I'm not familiar with fireballs.
I think it's to scare off wildlife.
Yep.
I'm not sure, but it might be one of those Molotov cocktails.
Does this happen a lot?
I think it's a shotgun shell that they use that
scare off.
Don't bail them out.
Yeah.
I think technically it's a fireball that actually is ejected into the air.
Yeah.
Not a fireball, but a firework that is.
Like a Roman candle?
Roman candle.
Roman candle.
Yeah. Even better.
Like pop bottle rockets?
Yes.
I think it's always good to know.
For foul control. I'll remember that next time.
Obliterating here what we're voting against.
Yeah, authorized foul.
I'm not familiar with fireballs, but
That's like the jostle.
sounds like something.
You know, fireballs have been, has been in the books ever since I've been to town, and that's been
Medieval.
over 30 years. And we've never charged anyone with throwing a fireball.
We should do.
We could just throwing a fireball out, but I would hate to
just-
make that be a license for fireball throwing.
No, my motion stands. I want this in
I
there.
think it would be fun to have.
If anybody knows what a fireball is, it should be me, I suppose. But
Well, to me, the key is
Authorized
foul
foul
control.
Yes,
And we talked,
that is the change.
we talked about that.
Remember that.
with Vance Air Force Base.
just by the sound of it, we definitely ought to not have it approved. We should be against fireballs.
Okay.
I agree.
It's no fun at all.
So what are you gonna do with it, Carol?
Gonna leave it in, I think there's a motion.
There's a motion.
Why don't I just let you all know at the next meeting what a fireball is, but.
Yeah, that works. That's good enough.
But my recommendation would be to approve the
So moved.
foul control.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't, come on. Let's not dig this any deeper.
The use of a
Yeah.
a
Call Commissioner
gun.
Wilson if you know what a fireball is.
Call me.
Okay.
Oh,
Whatever it is,
we've
you
got
can
it.
throw it.
A fireball, a ball filled with combustibles or explosives fired at an enemy or enemy fortification. So I actually
Like a
think the
Molotov
Molotov cocktail
Okay.
might be right.
Okay, for authorized foul control. I still move to approve. Let's go home.
Second.
Motion by Ben, second by Jonathan. Please cast your vote.
I'm against fireballs.
Motion carries
So
7-0.
that's been there since we had the castle.
Since we had catapults.
Yeah.
Apparently.
At least since 1973.
Item 7.2.
You're a castle.
We're gonna get you home yet, Ben.
I appreciate it, man.
Consider an ordinance amending the Enid Municipal Code 2014, Title 5, Public Safety, Chapter 6, Minors, Article B, Curfew Section 5-6B-4, Violations, Parental Responsibility, and Article C, Truancy, Section 5-6C-3, Violations, to reduce fines and remove jail time, providing for repealer, savings clause, severability, and codification.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ron, second by George.
So what is, so explain, so this takes away jail time for a parent of a truant child? Is that how this works?
Yes. And also, if the juvenile is breaking curfew, the parent would not face jail time. Now, that might be more significant because state law will still allow the truant child's parent to be jailed. I doubt it happens very often. But the curfew, we would be removing the parent's possibility of having jail time because there isn't a county curfew. But we've had it for a very long time, and we've never, I don't think we've ever jailed a parent. It would be a very unusual thing that you would jail a parent because their child was out too late. I mean, for one thing, the parent needs to be at home keeping the child in.
Well, and that's probably why it was in there, was probably because somebody needed to be responsible for the child and they weren't being, I mean, I get it, but I don't.
Well, it's your choice.
Locking them up so there's not a parent in the home to keep them
Doesn't
home might be
make
Yeah,
counterproductive to them.
that was my thought.
It's a
but-
double-edged sword, isn't it?
Yeah.
Second.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Yes.
Motion and a second.
George. And Ron.
No, I think I made the motion.
He made the
actually.
motion, I seconded, then we went into discussion.
Further discussion, please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 7.3, consider an ordinance amending the Enid Municipal Code 2014, Title 5, Public Safety, Chapter 5, General Offenses, Article C by amending 5-5C-4, Offenses concurring public utilities, 5-5C-5, Larency, 5-5C-6 fraudulent schemes, bad checks, and 5-5C-7 pump piracy or clearancy of gasoline, to lower fines and remove jail time, providing for repealer, savings clause, severability, and codification. A lot of these are terms I haven't heard of.
Move to approve.
Motion by Ben.
Second.
Second by Jonathan. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 7.4, consider an ordinance repealing the Enid Municipal Code 2014, Title 9, Building Regulations, Chapter 13, Oil and Gas Code, repealing and then reserving sections 9-13-8, 9-13-13, 9-13-14, 9-13-15, 9-13-16, and 9-13-17 to remove sections conflicting with state law and reserve them for future use. Amending section 9-13-2, intent and purpose, to acknowledge state law and the authority to regulate provisions in certain oil and gas operations. Section 9-13-6, permit requirements to remove unnecessary sections, add credit cards as a form of payment. Section 9-13, insurance and bond requirements, to increase the monetary bond requirement, commercial liability, coverage for insurance, and listing the city as additionally insured. Section 9-13-25. Noise, dust, odors, and other nuisances to limit the amount of decibels that an operating procedure for 75 decibels near certain structures. Section 9-13-35 entitled Violations, to simplify what actions constitute a violation of the ordinance, providing for repealer, savings clause, severability, and codification.
Good evening, Commissioners. Really, this ordinance is the result of two things. The first is that state law changed in 2015 that prevented municipalities from enacting ordinances that regulated, or using the ordinances that regulated oil and gas operations. When that law changed, it also meant that some of our ordinances that we had in this particular oil and gas code were outdated. So the revisions to the gas code were repealing the particular items that regulated particularly the operations of oil and gas producers, and took those out and reserved them for future use and to make it more compliant with state law. The other thing it did, some of the other things it did, it was bring payment options up to date. Credit cards weren't a form of payment under the old oil and gas code. They are now. To set the monetary bond requirements the same across the board and increase them so they're the same across the board, because if an oil and gas company folds, that cash bond is going to be what the city goes after if we can't go after the insurance if there's a catastrophic event. To require the city to be listed as additionally insured when there is a catastrophic event. To limit the decibels in areas particularly around schools, hospitals, and nursing homes, kind of our most vulnerable citizens. They can go through the variance process if something needs to be louder. It also simplified what constitutes a violation to make it easier to read what it is and is not. The other thing
to approve.
Second.
Good presentation. Motion by Ron.
Second.
Second by George.
Sure. No, that's fine.
Who made the second?
George.
That's what I thought.
Absolutely.
That's what I heard. Right. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 8, consent.
Move to approve.
We have motion by Ben.
Second.
Second by Jonathan. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 9, recess. We will now recess to convene as the Enid Municipal Authority. Item 10, all of the trustees of the Enid Municipal Authority are in attendance at the regular meeting. Item 11, The Enid Municipal Authority regular meeting is now in session. Item 11.1, award the purchase of one 311E VACCON combination sewer cleaner for the Public Utilities Division from Frontier Equipment Sales, Yukon, Oklahoma, and the amount of $330,542.28.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Commissioners. In order to adequately provide continuous customer service and to comply with environmental quality rules and regulations, we need to have this piece of equipment so we can keep the sewers clean and keep the wastewater flowing. We have available for two options, one for outright purchase of $350,542.28, or a other purchase option of $350,542.28 with a deduction of $20,000 for a trade-in of one of our old VACCON trucks in our fleet. This item was not budgeted for the 2017-18 budget, but we have removed some items from this year's budget to adequately fund this VACCON truck. Our recommendation is to approve the purchase of this vehicle with the trade-in option.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Tammy.
Second.
Second by Derwin.
Thanks for including pictures of this, by the way.
Yes,
I always
sir.
like to see pictures of
How
the
many of
big
these
things.
trucks do we have?
Sir, we have three.
Three?
Yes, sir.
So this will make number 4.
This will make number 3, or excuse me, make number 4 with a trade-in.
Further discussion.
What are the age of the other vehicles?
I apologize, I was wrong. We currently have 2 of these vehicles. This would make the third. One would be trade-in. We'll have one as a backup, sir. We have a 1994 and a 2005 vehicle.
So it's time. Okay.
It's very, yeah, their only life expectancy is 6 years. We're getting 12 out of one and 17 out of the other.
Well, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well done. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 11.2, approve transfer of ownership of pipelines and rights-of-way with Koch Fertilizer, Enid LLC, of certain reuse processed water lines.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager. This is just a presentation on the transfer of some reuse water lines between the EMA and Koch Nitrogen. And I'm going to go right to the map to help understand what's proposed here. What we have is a map of basically the southeast side of Enid, showing to the left, upper left, the old wastewater treatment plant and the new water reclamation facility just to the south of that. And if you look at the right side of this photos I show here is Koch Nitrogen plant out at 78th Street. Also, I'll point out Skeleton Creek, which crosses in between those, as well as the airport. What we have highlighted in the purple here is the 14-inch we call reuse water line. It is a line that has been in place since the 70s. It has been used to haul treated water from the wastewater plant and currently the water reclamation facility to Koch Nitrogen to reuse in their facility. And what we show in the green line is a new 24-inch line that Koch has installed, basically to replace the 14-inch line because of its age, and also provide for additional capacity. And it would provide flow from the water reclamation facility. The existing 14-inch pipe, the old pipe, is actually owned by EMA, but is operated and maintained by Koch Nitrogen per their agreement. What's proposed here is that Koch has built a new 24-inch line. They will dedicate this action will approve the dedication of that 24-inch line to the EMA, so it would be the ownership of the line, but they would continue to maintain and operate and repair as needed that line that serves their facility. We would also transfer ownership of the 14-inch line, the purple line here, back to Koch Nitrogen. Although it's seen its useful life as a pressure line, we'll point out that Koch Nitrogen runs discharge from their plant to Skeleton Creek, right here, by permit, and this would allow them to make use of that line to move their discharge as well. Is there any questions I could answer on it?
I have one. Go ahead. Does that line go under the
Under the runway?
Runway. The green and the purple.
Yes. Yes, they do. They are under the runway. We're bored on the runway. They are actually encased in the pipe beyond the safety zones for the runway. So they do go on the runway, having to pass, and they currently do, but they are encased, so they extend well beyond the runway. So the runway is protected from any leaks or damage
What
to the
happens
pipe.
if there's a problem with the pipe?
They have to go in and pull it out on one side and push another one under the runway without disturbing the runway.
So you don't shut down the runway?
That's correct. You do not shut the runway down. That's correct.
Robert, my question to you
Yes, sir.
is, where's this water coming from again? I just want to make sure I heard you right.
Okay. The water is the treated water from the water reclamation facility, the new facility that was built. And it's a discharge water. Basically, Coke Nitrogen takes the treated water and they pump it to their facility and they make use of it in their cooling system. And another facility. So it is, it's discharged from the wastewater or from the water reclamation facility. It is treated water, but they take it before we discharge it and take it to the facility. So it's reuse. We have reuse of our total, pretty close to total reuse of our wastewater discharge.
Is that when DEQ required Coke to use potable water to make fertilizer?
Coke Nitrogen does use potable water in certain facilities. This is basically used in their operations for cooling, and for those facilities, which is a large amount of their water consumption is for cooling and for processed water, and it is permitted through ODEQ. That's correct.
And I would like to add one thing, that the Coke Nitrogen is responsible for the maintenance on these lines.
I didn't hear what.
The Coke Nitrogen is responsible for the maintenance and repair
Yes.
on those lines.
Yes.
And this water's going to the old sewer plant, the one?
Water comes from the new water reclamation facility. The old wastewater plant is only used for sludge management. Doesn't treat water. So the treatment plant, which is now a water reclamation facility is the title, it is the discharge water from that site is transferred through the new 20-inch pipe to Coke Nitrogen by Coke Nitrogen. They operate the pumps, they operate the line, and they maintain the system. Thank you.
Have a motion to approve? I'll make a motion to approve.
A second.
Motion by Ron, second by Derwin. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Item 11.3, approval of claims in the amount of $706,232.47.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ben, second by Jonathan. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 12, we will now adjourn to convene as the Enid Economic Development Authority. Item 13, all of the trustees of the Enid Economic Development Authority are in attendance. Item 14, the Enid Economic Development Authority regular meeting is now in session. Item 14.1, resolution ratifying the trust manager's written consent to allow Enid BWP LLC to assign payments from Enid Economic Development Authority to Enid Best Western Properties, is that right, Ben?
Mm-hmm.
LLC's lenders mortgage.
Motion to approve. Motion to approve the resolution.
We have a motion by Ben,
Second.
second by Jonathan. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 14.2, approval of claims in the amount of $6,000.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Jonathan,
Second.
second by George. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 15, we will now adjourn to convene as the Enid Public Transportation Authority. Item 16, all of the trustees are in attendance. No, I'm sorry. Trustees of the Enid Public Transportation Authority regular meeting are all in attendance. Item 17, the Enid Public Transportation Authority regular meeting is now in session. Item 17.1, approval of claims in the amount of $2,022.48.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Tammy, second by Ben. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 19, comments. There are none. Item 20, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Motion by George, or Jonathan, second by Ben. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. You are adjourned.
Thank you for joining us for the Enid City Commission meeting. All meetings are broadcast on local cable channel 12 and in high definition on channel 112. In addition, the council meeting is live streamed on the web at enidtv.org. If you have any questions or comments regarding this broadcast, please visit the City of Enid website at enid.org.